You're listening to Simple Roots Radio, episode number 207. And today we're breaking down one of the most fascinating body systems, to me at least, and that is fascia. What it does, what it means, and how it impacts your health. And most importantly, what you can do about it to change your health.
Welcome to Simple Roots Radio with Alexa Sherm. Alexa believes that simplicity in life is the key to achieving true and lasting health. And now your host, Alexa Sherm.
Welcome back to this podcast. As always, my name's Alexa, and this is the place to get healthy, live happy, and find more joy. I'm so pumped you're here. Today, we have a special interview with someone that I've long looked up to, and I love her work. Her name's Lauren Roxburgh. She is a best-selling author, internationally renowned wellness educator, and speaker. She is the go-to writer and expert on all things fascia, alignment, and mind-body connection and movement medicine, and regularly works with Hollywood's A-list, along with some of the greatest athletes and surgeons on this planet. Lauren has been listed as one of the top 8 tech pioneers to watch by Entrepreneur Magazine and one of the 16 women in wellness to watch in 2019 by Chalkboard Magazine. She is the founder of the Align Tribe community and the virtual Align Life Studio, and the creator of the signature Aligned Healing Tools. She also has a new book called The Power Source, which you can find anywhere you can find a book, on Amazon, Target, or wherever. I'll make sure and link that up in the show notes as well. But you're going to want to get that book because it talks about the hidden keys to ignite your core, empower your body, release stress, and realign your life. Today on the show, Lauren and I are going to dive deep into the subject of fascia, what it means for you, your health, and how you can heal your fascia to heal your body. This is groundbreaking work. It has only been recognized in the last 10-ish, 15 years as vital in the body, and it is growing at exponential rates in the research. This subject matters, and I cannot wait to have Lauren share more about it and what it does. So stay tuned for that. But as always, don't forget you can find all the information on today's show in the show notes at simplerootswellness.com/207, as well as all the resources that we talk about here today, which there are many. I'm also going to share some of my favorite fascia release techniques over in the show notes. And these are very simplistic and basic practices that are pretty low cost. I mean, all of them can be no cost if you wanted to, but highly effective. So make sure you head on over there and get that information. Also, sign up for my email list while you're there. There's so much new information coming out at Simple Roots Wellness, and I can't wait to share this upcoming things with you and give you discounts only to those who are on my newsletter. So make sure you sign up. Just leave your name and email address, which I know is a prized and valuable commodity anymore. But I promise, it's worth your time. If you're loving the show, don't forget to share these episodes with your friends and family. Take a screenshot, share them on social media, and encourage other people who wouldn't otherwise hear about Simple Roots Radio to join the community of like-minded people who are on a mission to make health who we are, not what we do. Yes, just drop a quick note on social media telling them what you're loving about the show, maybe your favorite podcast, and encourage them to join in and listen. Literally, it means the world to me, and it's the lifeblood of the show. Of course, you can also leave a rating and review over at iTunes at simplerootswellness.com/review. Leave a 5-star rating, what you're loving about the show. That helps immensely. Okay, that's it for the announcements. For now, I want to dig right into the show because it is so good. Let's welcome Lauren to the show. Welcome to the show, Lauren. This is a topic we've been kind of working out, trying to get each other to find a time to talk for a while, but I am pumped to have you on and talk about this topic. So thanks for being here.
Oh, amazing. It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah. So I'm going to call you the fascia expert. And honestly, I feel like it's a topic that not a lot of people even hear about. Like you might have heard the word or the term at some point, but just the science behind it and what it does to the body, I'm learning so much and I can't wait to learn from you. But can you just explain what it is and why it matters?
Yes, that is a perfect place to start. So really what fascia is it's this amazing webbing that wraps around the entire body. Kind of picture it like saran wrap. So it wraps around the entire body from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. It's also right below your skin and above your muscle. There's a big sheath. it's like scaffolding of the body. But then it also wraps around each individual muscle, like I was saying, that saran wrap. So it can actually glue muscles together and tighten up joints and create a thickness and density. But the other really interesting thing, which I think you would love as well in your audience, is that within the fascial matrix, it's kind of like a cotton candy, spider webby kind of thing. And within it lives your lymph nodes. So obviously it's super important for lymphatic system, for lymphatic drainage and congestion and boosting immunity. And also the other thing that's really fascinating is your meridians lie in the fascia as well. So if you're looking at qi, it's a really important part of, looking at Chinese medicine, acupuncture, qi, energy, all of that stuff, blockages. And then also the other really interesting thing is that the nerves lie in the fascia. So you can imagine how important this, what they're calling our sensory organ, medicine is now calling it our sensory organ. It's like, how they call skin our largest organ? Well, now we know that fascia is actually another large organ as well, that, encases so many of these important aspects of human health and also regulating the endocrine system, the hormones and the nervous system. So it's a really, really important part of the body for just overall health and well-being, not even just fitness, but actually living a very vital, radiant life.
Yeah. I've heard some people describe it as tying the entire body together.
Yeah.
And I think it's fascinating. So I've done some research and it's been proven that fascia communicates electrically, but is that just because the nerve endings lie within the fascia, or does it actually have its own, you could say, communication kind of network?
Well, great question, because we're now, in Germany, they're doing a lot more research on it, but more and more information is revealing itself, or studies are revealing that is definitely a possibility, that it has its own network as well. And that has a lot to do with just emotional energy as well. So we're finding that, I've said this before, but trauma lives in the tissues, unresolved trauma that hasn't moved through the system, through breath, through movement, through even crying or laughing or, some sort of sound movement, like a lot of people will use sound therapy to move energy through the body as well, kind of vibrates it out. So if we don't deal with an issue or a trauma or pain or some issue that's come up and we stuff it inside our body, a lot of times it can get stuck in the tissue, and the tissue then dries up, becomes brittle, thick, and dense. And in a way, I always say aging is a form of dehydration. So it's not how much water you're drinking, it's actually how much hydration is within your tissue, your connective tissue, your fascia, because the way the tissue stays hydrated is through compression. So it needs compression, it needs to be wrung out. And then once you wring it out, all that circulation, blood flow, qi, lymph can flush through the tissue. But the problem is that many of us are sitting too much and hunching over, and we have a lot of congested connective tissue that becomes thick, dried, and brittle. And then the oxygenated blood cannot flush through it. So if you think about it, it's almost like, picturing that cotton candy spider webbing. Well, water can flow, or, fluid can flow through that beautifully. But what happens is it turns into this internal, plasticized cast. That's what a knot is, right? So that's the connective tissue that's been wound up, dried up. And then now the blood can't flow through, the lymph can't flow through, the qi can't flow through. So we get congestion, which leads to dis-ease. So that can become from emotional things, trauma, injuries, movement patterns, biomechanics, using your body in one way too often, not creating enough expansion, too much compression, and all of those things. Yeah. So it's super important.
Yeah. Okay. So that's so fascinating. So we did a whole mindset series about how emotions are stored, but I didn't link it to it being more specific to the fascia. But it makes so much sense. So
doesn't it? I know.
Yeah. So, okay, this is just a clarification question. Does it surround our organs then too?
Absolutely. Like I was saying earlier, it wraps around each individual muscle like a saran wrapping. It also wraps around every single organ. So you can imagine that, organ motility, which is when organs can move and, do what they're supposed to do to get your body to, go like, especially for gut health and everything. I mean, it's so incredibly important to have motility, which is like, there's a whole practice called visceral manipulation, which is like when you get your organs basically massaged and you make sure that they're not glued together.
Yeah.
So it's super important for gut health as well.
That's such a fascinating technique. I've had it done a few times.
Yeah.
It is the most amazing feeling though.
It is, right?
Strange.
It's beautiful.
But
I love it.
You can take a deep breath. That's that's all I can describe it is like, oh my gosh, you can breathe deeper than you ever thought possible.
So you know why that is though, really quick, as you brought that up, it's kind of super important, is because you're addressing the vagus nerve, because the vagus nerve is what connects the brain to the gut. So whenever you get visceral work in your organs, meaning, hands-on work, or you do the work yourself with like, well, my product is the Body Sphere, or, whatever kind of product you're using to self-massage. When you do that, you're actually dropping yourself into the parasympathetic state of the nervous system, which is all about rest, digest, and heal. And that's why it just feels so calming, because it's directly connecting you into your nervous system and calming you down. So it's very scientifically validated. Yeah. So it's pretty amazing.
That is amazing that even just, when you talk about touch, allowing you to shift your nervous system state, it's pretty remarkable. And it's taken so lightly in this whole subject. And why I'm so passionate about this, even you are more so, like this is your career to make it known what fascia is. But this again it ties it all together. So I want to go back to the mind just quickly.
Yes,
this
please.
isn't a part of my plan, but the emotional state of our mind directly impacts our body. So can you just talk about what that does to our fascia and how that becomes unhealthy?
Absolutely. That is a really good and super important question. So really, when we have tension in the body, what happens is we're in a reactive state. So the reason why we have knots is because of the way we're reacting or responding to any situation. So let's say, you're in a stressful situation, you get that stressful, by the way, stress is a reaction as well. And we do have the ability to control that. Like the idea of stress is really from the inside out, right? It's not what happens to us. It's really how we deal with it.
Right.
So when you think about it, the tissue dehydration and the knots that build up, that is all completely connected to the way we're reacting to situations. And a lot of times it happens very subconsciously. So, I talk a lot about, just living in that state of like white knuckling, clutching, bearing down, like contracted energy. And that's the energy of control and of yang and of doing, right? And so what our culture and society has been lacking is the idea of yin, of presence, of the state of allowing, of surrender, getting out of that forceful energy and getting more into the flow energy. That's the difference of the yin and the yang. And as human beings, that's how we thrive, not just survive, but thrive when we actually can be present and be aware and have the balance of the yin and the yang. So that's really where it comes down to, is like, why do we have scar tissue? Why do we have knots? Why do we have tension in the body? Yeah, it's from either trauma, the way we've been reacting subconsciously, repetitively, biomechanical movement patterns, and then of course the mind. But the mind, to me, if you have to start with something, like we all have to start somewhere, I believe we've got to start with the mind first, because once we have the awareness, as they say, awareness is the first step to change. So once we have the awareness in our mind, then we can shift and we can ground ourselves. We can take a deep breath and we don't have to go into that locking down, bearing down, clutching energy, whether it's from an emotional, energetic thing or a physical clutching. Both of them are constricting and creating more of that sort of, really it's a fearful mentality.
Yeah. So when you talk about this and what happens when we have these like clenching down, kind of like this hoarding of stress. So what specifically happens with our fascia? Like it becomes dehydrated and it creates those knots.
Yeah. So basically what it does is it kind of locks us down, right? It creates this glue. And if we are not doing the work to release it, because the thing is, like, we're all going to deal with like what we would call stressful situations. Like we ride the waves of life. Like life is never perfect for anyone. It doesn't matter how famous you are or rich you are. There's always going to be like turmoil. So it's really just about learning how to not go into, or if you do have to, I mean, basically it's that difference, like we were saying earlier, in the fight or flight or the rest and digest, right? So you have two states of the nervous system. So you can, and many people are living in a state of, you know, fight or flight all the time, which means that they're always feeling like they're being chased by a lion.
Yeah.
But the reality is, as human beings, that we need that, because sometimes we do like actually need to like do that fight or flight and be in, you know, that does keep us alive, and it's kept us alive through many, many centuries. But what's happened is many people are living in that state just all the time, which is, you know, that's why it's so important that we allow ourselves to get into. So there's two different states of the nervous system. There's that sympathetic state, which is all about fight or flight. And then there's the parasympathetic state, which is rest, digest, heal, rejuvenate. And we really do need both. But the thing is, the reason why the tissue gets thick and dense and dehydrated is because we're not allowing for expansion. We're not undoing the day. A lot of times I'll say, like, really all the fascia needs is to be undone daily. It's like, in a way, I like to use the analogy of, you know how like you brush your teeth and floss your teeth every day? Most people would exfoliate their skin every day, at least of their face. Maybe, I mean, I believe in doing it on your body as dry brushing, but it's kind of like that. It's almost like, think of it like as flossing your fascia in a way. Like, it needs a daily ritual. It's like a stress hygiene. It's how we clear the energy and congestion so that we can then just continue to keep living our lives thriving rather than being so stuck and dense and compressed. So what's happened is our culture is just not interested in expansion. And I think that's why yoga is having this big, you know, moment in our culture and society, because people just need to breathe. They need to expand. They need to undo this hunched over posture. But that hunched over posture leads to gluing down of the tissue. And then obviously you can imagine what would get stagnant. Your breath, your organs get compressed. Your hunched over shoulders, your head and neck are forward. Your jaw gets tight. Your pelvic floor gets tight. So we just end up locking. So really, it doesn't take much. That's the thing about fascia. It's incredibly malleable and it's highly responsive, and it feels amazing to work with it. So there's all of those reasons are why it's so easy to undo that damage. And it's really about, you know, like I was saying, we're not going to get away from the craziness or the busyness of life or the intensity of life. But what we can do is we can evolve as a species. We can evolve our minds. We can evolve our bodies to really be able to thrive in this busyness and craziness and enjoy it, you know?
Yeah. It's a mindset shift.
It is.
So when we talk about it, is there a genetic component to people having maybe more fascia issues than other people, or is it solely based like environmentally?
Oh no, absolutely. Like everything in life, our genetics are going to have a huge influence. I think some people are going to have thicker, more dense tissues. Some people are going to have more muscle mass. Some people have more flexibility. That is a genetic thing. But I also believe that, you know, we might be predisposed genetically to certain aspects or, you know, I guess ways of being, but we definitely can influence it. Like, for instance, like I've grown up kind of always being pretty tight. Like I was always like, I was in gymnastics and ballet and like, I was never like super flexible. I was growing really quickly, like always kind of like really tall. And so my tissue was always a little more dense and stiffer. But I also noticed as I, you know, kind of stepped into this world and started to really understand why we have this tension and tightness and the, you know, like we're talking about earlier, the nervous system, I now am so much more flexible than I ever was back even when I was really little. So I think we are predisposed to certain things, but we also have the ability through lifestyle and awareness to really shift it. I mean, I don't know if it's possible to go from being like one of the tightest people ever, can't even touch your toes, to becoming like a crazy hypermobile yogi. You know what I mean? But that's not even healthy anyway. So to me, it's just like, can you touch your toes? Can you extend your spine uniformly? You know, like things like that. Can you side bend? Like you want to be able to move your body in all those different planes of movement. But as far as does it all have to do with genetics or not? I would say it's a blend of both. But I think we have a lot more, I guess, control over how our body is being used than we realize as we learn more about the science and the spirituality of wellness.
Yeah, it is really fascinating. So if someone said, okay, I mean, you just kind of listed a few things out there about how you tell how healthy your fascia is.
Oh gosh.
Like
well, great question. I mean, I think what I like to say is, if we have thick, dense fascia, you're going to feel a heaviness in the body. You're going to feel possibly pain, rigidity, stiffness. You might even feel congestion, like that lymph congestion can be a lot from the connective tissue, thickness and density. I would say if you're sluggish, you don't have a lot of energy, if you can't really take a deep breath, if you feel like even, like I talk a lot about the pelvic floor, because to me it's a really important area of the body. But if you have, tightness in your pelvic floor, then the fascia is very wound up there. Then you have lower back pain, incontinence, inability to have an orgasm or premature ejaculation for men, tight hips, those kinds of things. I mean, all of those things, anything that has to do with, I guess flexibility, all of those things I mentioned earlier, like the breathing and everything, those things are highly, I guess those would be the telltale signs of if your fascia needs some love, which most people do because we're dealing with gravity. Like I was saying, it's another form of hygiene. The way I look at it is it's a form of stress hygiene. It's like if we've got to clear we've got to clear the tissues because stuff gets stuck in there, just like it does in our teeth.
Yeah. I mean, so you have programs, and we're going to talk about that later in your book. Yeah. But what are some practical everyday things that people could be doing to just unwind themselves at the end of the day?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's, I always say like Netflix and roll, like just grab your foam roller, lay on the roller while you're watching a show, especially lay on the long 36-inch roller, just on your back, have your whole spine supported from head to tail. And the beauty of that is that once you lay down, it's reminding your body, number one, where straight is, where your spine is straight. And then number two, you're using gravity to put you back into alignment. You're getting a little massage on your upper back. You're allowing your neck to realign. You're letting your organs reposition. You're letting your hips and lower back open up. So it's a really powerful position. That's, I would say, number one. It takes like maybe 3 minutes to do that. Just I call that one undo the day, snow angels. And then also, taking really nice hot salt baths with magnesium chloride salts to remineralize your tissue. Make sure you take magnesium orally. I like to take a powdered form. That's actually, they call it the miracle mineral magnesium.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it before on your podcast, but it's incredibly important for dealing with the nervous system and getting that really deep sleep. Of course, sleep is another thing that's very powerful in managing and maintaining, connective tissue health or well-being. I mean, overall health as well. I like to recommend people jumping or bouncing on the rebounder because I find that really, bouncing on the rebounder is like getting a little like massage on every cell of your body. Yeah. So it kind of shakes out the lymph, but it also is very helpful for connective tissue health. And doing an infrared sauna is a phenomenal thing to do as well. Dry brushing, like I said earlier, getting that chi moving, going upside down, doing inversions, doing twists, doing, deep stretches. I really do recommend having daily bone broth because that's I always call that a fascia food. It's a connective tissue food. And then also like continuing to work with your lymph in any of the ways. You can drink, teas for that. Obviously we kind of mentioned a lot of things that help with lymph. But anywhere where we have congestion is a lot of times, like even cellulite is weakened connective tissue. So, it's another good reason to really work with your tissues is like once you can heal and regenerate your connective tissues, then the muscle will come to the surface more efficiently and the fat will flush out as well. So those are all very inspiring reasons. And then breathing. Right. Breathing is a really phenomenal way and getting into that parasympathetic state of the nervous system.
Yeah. So before we talk about, I want to specifically talk about foam rolling. Yeah. Because I think it's becoming a more common thing, but just getting into that a little bit more. But before we go there, let's talk about the body fat issue and the congestion that, I think that we have these thoughts that it's all just calorie related. Body fat does not work that way. So can you break a few myths that you've learned over the course of learning about fascia and what that really does look like?
Yes. Well, yeah. So, I mean, fat to me is just another form of stored energy. So if energy gets stuck in the body, then it's more susceptible to being stuck like in the body as well. Like, you know what I mean? Like on your tissue, within your tissues as well. And I'm a big believer in like that the fat can really be flushed by working with the lymph and also, using your body in a much more efficient way. The other thing I find really interesting, which they just did an article on CNN about this, but most people don't realize that the way our body actually releases fat out of our system is through exhaling, through actually converting the fat into CO2, and then we exhale the fat out. I mean, it's kind of fascinating because wouldn't you think that you're like peeing it out or pooping it out or something like, you're like,
that
wait, how do we lose that? Or sweating it out is actually through breathing. So I'm like always really helping and wanting to, enhance people's breathing, because most people don't realize that our lungs can take about 2 gallons worth of oxygen into our bodies. And then, but most people are only using about maybe 20 to 30% of that capacity. So you can imagine when the lungs and the intercostal muscles get wound up and glued down by the connective tissue thickness and tightness, then our lungs will not expand and contract in the most efficient way. So we're not taking in as much oxygen. We're not able to flush as much CO2. So that's why it's highly important that we have to have fascial resilience in order to really release, that CO2 and get the fat out of the body and move that stored energy out of the system. It's not just what we eat. It's also how we process it. It also has to do with the thoughts that we have while we're eating that specific food. It's the gut health. It's the gut motility, like we were saying earlier, the organ motility that needs to have the ability to, expand and contract and not be so stuck and glued down. And people that are in a hunch all day long, their organs are getting compressed, their lungs are getting compressed. So they have stagnant, stuck energy. And so then that turns into what looks like muffin tops or, a gut. So, but that is, it's much easier to move through the body than we realize. I mean, we realize it, but I think it's becoming much more, more light is being shed on the ability to move that energy through. I mean, even like bouncing on the rebounder is 50% more effective for fat burning and cardiovascular health than running. So I'm like, bring it on.
Right. Do that. So when we talk about breath work, I mean, that is like a fascinating statistic about how we lose excess body fat. So what is what would you consider good breath work? Like, is it a series of like really deep breaths a certain number of times throughout the day, or is it just really focusing on deep breathing continuously? What does that look like for you?
Great question. I would say whenever you're going to, there's breath work, like modalities where you can actually do, there's so many different ones, but I would say that the key for me is that you want to create that elasticity in the tissues so that you just, no matter when you're doing, whether you're driving your car or you're going, or you're going for a run or you're going to do a workout or you're sitting at your desk or you're sitting on an airplane, that your lung capacity is just more naturally in a state of much more expansion without even thinking about it. It's just naturally in that state. So the way you do that is through creating that elasticity through foam rolling, through stretching, through getting out of that compressed posture. So it's not any specific type of breath work. I mean, it could be anything. Like I have, the diaphragm breathing that we do on the roller where you extend your upper back, you get the little extension in the upper back and you fully expand the lungs. And then as you exhale, you curl up as you exhale. So that's like an amazing way to open up the diaphragm, because I find that the diaphragm holds a lot of emotional energy and gets really compressed. And then that's obviously going to have a big impact on your gut health as well and your ability to release, stored energy or fat. So, diaphragm breathing, I have a couple other breathwork techniques in the book as well, but also, you can do, I call it flat belly breathing, which is when you just fully exhale all the air out from your lower stomach and kind of wring out the organs as well and the lungs. So kind of going to the full expansion and the full compression will then reteach your body neuromuscularly that you have that space. So when you do need it to sort of reboot your system, you can go ahead and grab that any day, any time of the day. It doesn't have to be just in your breathwork practice. I mean, I do it periodically throughout the day.
Yeah. And this all goes to show just what a lifestyle this is. I think we try to just like box up health into like little things like exercise and diet, but it is the full picture of just every little detail that you live. Yeah. And at the same time, these aren't like big, like 180 changes that you have to make in your life, but it's just simple little shifts that like focusing on how you're breathing. Like
I know
it's pretty basic stuff.
It's so true. It's so interesting because really that's the reality of anything in life. It's the little things that add up to the big things, you know?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The rituals, the daily practices, that's why I like to think of it as like this like thing that we do daily. Like we're going to always be like practicing hygiene, if we're going to be living. So it's like another form of that.
Yeah. Okay. So one specific thing though, that people can practically, all of this is practical, but do even with workout or whatever is foam rolling. Mm-hmm. So foam rolling, I feel like I see more and more people picking up foam rolling. I have done some courses on foam rolling, but I don't know enough if there's a right and wrong way to foam roll. Like, could people be messing this up or is it pretty straightforward?
I do believe depends on the person, but I think it's quite intuitive. I mean, obviously it is for me, but I think foam rolling to me, I like to actually call it body rolling now because I have now, I have the rollers, but I also have the other tools. Yeah. I have the body sphere, the little mini infinity roller, which is phenomenal for like the extremities, the hands, the forearms, the hips, the neck and the feet. And then also the domes, those are like spiky domes. So you can really relax and like massage your scalp and, really flush the lymph. And so I like to call it body rolling. And to me, what body rolling is just such an easy and simple and effective tool. And the reason why I created my programs have written my books is because I feel like everyone kind of most people have access to a roller, but people don't know what to do with it. They're always rolling their IT band out and they don't know what else they can do. And what I always say about the roller is it's basically your own private masseuse and your own personal trainer because you can use it for both self-massage and healing and physical therapy, but you can also use it for like the most kick-ass workout, Pilates core workout. So it's this super inexpensive but super effective tool that can be utilized for so many different things. It's like, all you need is a mat and your roller and you're basically on to completely changing the shape of your structure and the connection to your core and all of that stuff, longevity. So it's pretty phenomenal.
You have taught me a number of things over the years. One is I've had those spiky balls forever, which is like a half sphere with spikes on it. I'll link it up. I'll link yours up in the show notes. But I had no idea that you could use it in all of those ways to move your lymphatic flow.
Isn't that cool? Like the inner thigh one? I'm kind of obsessed with that one because I get tight in there. That's like one of the last little spots from old patterns that I have from playing water polo years ago and swimming. And so the inner thigh area for me is always like just really a tight spot. So I find that, wow, I can't believe, like when I use those domes before I go to a yoga class, it is amazing how much deeper I can get into the stretch and really release that fluid as well.
Yeah. Okay. And it's a place that what I love about what you're doing is, like you said, there's foam rolling, but like I can totally see why you call it body rolling because there's places that a foam roller just can't reach.
Exactly.
And using that, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes total sense now.
Yeah. I'm glad.
And, and the body sphere, talk about rolling your stomach because I think people think we have to just roll muscles.
Yeah.
And yes, we have the abdominal layer, but I feel like the stomach's like, oh, that's a sensitive place. Even getting like an abdominal massage, I think is strange for people because we don't often think of it as like a place people should touch.
I know. That's our old school, like, really uptight just culture, I think too. I think that, if you go to other cultures in the world, like if you go to like Thailand, they're always massaging your stomach and it's so phenomenal to really relax you. So, but the beauty is, so I've spent so many years with my hands on people's bodies and I kept thinking, I'm starting to work with just the rich and famous. Like I got to get this information to everyone. I want everyone to feel this. So I just started experimenting and trying all these different tools and really just trying to find a way to do this to ourselves. And, so that's why I designed the body sphere because you could actually roll your pelvic floor and your belly. And the key though, is that you want to make sure that the ball has enough kind of stickiness, whatever ball you end up using. I mean, I have mine that I designed. It's made in Italy. So you can apply it directly to your skin and not worry about toxins and all of that stuff too. And then also, the other really interesting thing is you need to make sure that the ball doesn't have that much air in it. You don't want it to be super hard. I always say, blow it up to about 60, maybe 70% full. You definitely want to keep it on the softer side, because if you think about what your stomach is, it's completely full of, like you said, muscles and organs and, all kinds of stuff. So it's not about going deep. Like, people just are kind of obsessed with like going really deep with rolling, but really when you think about what fascia is, it's that webbing, right? So the idea is not to take an elbow to the bone, but really about peeling back the layers of an onion. So you're peeling back layer by layer. And as you do that, that's what's, again, clearing it, restructuring it, healing it, flushing the fluids and the lymph. So it's the same thing with the belly, but with the belly, you want to even go softer. So go really slow, listen to your body. In the book, I've laid out a bunch of different things, but in the Align Life Studio, we have a bunch of things in video form to teach people how to do the visceral rolling, which has, by the way, gone completely viral. People just love the visceral, the belly rolling.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
amazing. It's just, again, I guess it's just because there's so few people that are teaching it. That it's such a kind of new way of, again, looking at gut health and just core strength and kind of just getting to know your body.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel like you can roll your muscles, and I think you kind of expect what it's going to feel like after the fact, but I think it's alarming how great it feels to do that visceral rolling in your abdomen.
Yes.
I think we live in such a state that sometimes we forget what it feels like to feel good. And there's like that, like our bodies want to feel good. So there's like that slight addiction to, okay, I'm going to do more of, like, this felt good. So like, I want to keep doing it. And for me,
does inspire that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It's just like, kind of de-inflating your stomach area, like it just, I don't know. There's something that helps me sleep better and feel better, digest better. I love this because it's not just another tissue, but it's a tissue that's interconnected to everything else that's going on in our body.
It is.
And these aren't separate systems, but you can kind of start to see how it pulls it all together. And your videos are amazing. Like, literally, I've learned so much from you. So,
that's awesome.
Yeah, no, it's phenomenal. But just to kind of like wrap this up, because we could talk forever and I need not to take any more of your time. But when we talk about the health of the fascia, and you say this is something that we can get back, right? Like, we can always improve this.
Yeah.
Is there a point in life, like, okay, you're just starting out, you might need a little extra love and care for that, and then in time it just becomes a like more natural rhythm for your body? You know what I'm saying? Like, is there more work that's involved right away, and then later on it just you kind of get into a rhythm of just a little bit here and there?
I think what you were saying earlier, just a few minutes ago, about it's just really deepening this awareness of like this sensuality in the physical body, because we have these senses, right? We have the sense of smell and taste and sight and touch. And, to have those senses brings us into the moment, brings us into our physical body, which then allows us to connect to our more authentic desires, our authentic passion, our purpose, our path. And so for me, the physicality of connecting to what's happening, like if you, they always say, like, if you don't listen to the knock at the door, let's say you had like, a pain in your hip, and then, you just keep, don't listen to it. Then they're going to start kicking the door down. Then they're going to, knock the door down. Like, it's like listening. That's why they call me the body whisperer, because really what we're doing is we want to listen to the whispers, and then we can deal and live in a more of a state of preventative health, rather than trying to fix it always. So deepening the awareness, listening to your body throughout the day. I think becoming more present in your body, not living in your head so much, but feeling more in your body, getting more connected to your senses, the sense of taste, the sense of touch, the sense of sensuality, living in that more, connected state to not only yourself, but your emotions and your choices and those kinds of things. I think what a lot of people talk about these days when they talk about self-care is like making time for yourself to go have a massage or go do a bath or something. To me, like, the best form of self-care is really just becoming more present in our messages from our body, our physical body, our emotional body, and then also learning to make better choices with our time, with our relationships, those types of things. So I would say those are the most important things when we're wanting to
enhance our lives really and become more aware of these things. It's really awareness again. It's like, but I love the idea of just sensuality. And, one thing I talk about this in the book too, but getting more in tune with the feminine energy, and the feminine energy is in all of us, men and women. It's not just for women. It's the feminine energy is the nurturing energy, the yin energy again. It's really about, like a good place to get in touch with, the feminine energy is being in nature, right? So I always like to go to the farmer's market. That's very feminine. Cooking is very feminine. Being in the garden is feminine. Like that's Mother Nature, right? She has so much to provide for us, but it's also about just feeling again and connecting and, that sense of touch and nurturing. So the feminine energy supports what we're talking about to get more in touch and be not so, the masculine energy is like, just power through and just think your way through it and you're going to fix it with your mind. It's very masculine. So the feminine energy is really where I believe the real power is. That's the sustainable power. Like they say, vulnerability is a superpower. Yeah. So good. Okay. So my last question before we do a little bit of quick fire is, if someone was just like heard this, like mind blown, what are 3 steps that you would give someone to get started in healing and nurturing their fascia? Oh my goodness. I love it. Okay. So we are just designing right now for this exact reason. The person that's never had access to this, I'm designing right now within my Align Life studio. It's called the Elevate Align Life Journey. And basically what it does, it's going to bring people on a journey for 10 weeks to go through and learn what it is. What is fascia? What is body rolling? Why do we want to do it? And how does it affect all parts of our soul and our self and our body? And it basically takes you each week on a journey of, kind of an evolution within yourself. I always say align your body to align your life. So it takes you on this evolution of a journey to really learn. But I would say also just grab your roller and you can YouTube things. If you don't, if you want to not spend any money, you could just buy the travel roller is like $15 or something. You can start with that. That's a perfect place to start. You can do so many things with that. So there's lots of different ways, but I would say, rolling should be a part of everyone's lives, men, women, children. I mean, it's so funny. My little kids are like rolling their bellies out. It's amazing on the little body sphere. It's so cool.
I think it's funny because after I started doing that, I was just watching kids in general. And isn't it fascinating that they almost find a way to body roll without like technically using any kind of equipment?
I think that's part of the evolution of like I was saying earlier, like we have to evolve, right? Our bodies have to evolve to deal with all the stress. So they're like, oh, we know how to do this. It's like intuitive for them.
Yeah. So fascinating. Lauren, you have been a wealth of knowledge. Before we go, I'm going to find out more about the Align Life Studio. You have a great book out. We're going to promote all of that. But before we get there, I have a few quick fire questions for you. So what's the first thing you do every morning for your health?
Oh my gosh, I love this question. Okay. So what I've found in my research is that when we first wake up in the morning, before we even get out of bed, before we like really open our eyes or look at our phone or even drink any water, our subconscious mind is the most available right when we wake up. It has to do with the brainwave state that we're in. And so what I do is I sit up in bed and I just do my affirmations and I keep my eyes closed and I just say, I am love. I am grateful. I am abundant. I am clear. I am of service. I trust in the unknown. And I repeat whatever affirmations kind of resonate at that moment. I just kind of let them channel in and I repeat them. And I do it for about maybe 5 minutes. And it just sets up the energy and the vibration, the quantum physics of the day to be so much higher. Just like up levels the vibration, and everything I do comes from a totally different place because I've taken the moment to be super present and infuse my mind and my cells and my tissues with the elevated emotions. And I find it so powerful in shifting the energy of the day, and also even just like having that ability to live effortlessly and gracefully kind of in my body too. Does that make sense? So that to me, and then I get up and have my water and, do my rolling and rebounding. But that is the first thing I do. And I find it very powerful. And I have all my clients do it as well. And it's a game changer. So, some people meditate. I choose right now. I've done TM meditation in the past, which has been very effective. Right now I'm working with the affirmations, which is another form of meditation, I guess, in a way.
Yeah. I feel like what I love about meditations from the research that I did is it allows you to create mind space to be able to release what you normally would hold on to in a day.
Definitely. It is. You're right. It's like actually emptying the trash on your computer. That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taking that time to empty the trash. I love it.
Yeah. Okay. So you have a book, but outside of your own book, which is fantastic, what is your favorite health book?
Well, I have two that are pretty tied, so I'll just say both. But Joe Dispenza's book, Becoming Supernatural, has been a complete game changer for so many reasons in health. And then for me, as in my research and everything too, and inspired so many things. And then also on the same token, I would say it's the feminine version of Joe's work is Carolyn Myss, which is called Anatomy of Spirit. Those two books were both just complete game changers in everything that I do and teach. So I would highly recommend both of those. Yeah.
Perfect. The last question is, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received and want to leave us with?
Oh my gosh.
It's a big question.
Follow your bliss and listen and watch the signs and do it from the inside out. The answers are within.
So good. Lauren, thank you so much for being here and sharing this. I mean, you brought up quantum physics. Like, that's a whole nother topic that we could get into, right?
Totally.
And this is all just like up and coming. But I have been so encouraged as I followed you for the last few years and just standing up for a topic that doesn't get a lot of press, that makes such a difference. And you really are doing a lot of good in this world. And I want others to come see what you're doing and check it out, because I really do believe that this is a vital component of a healthy lifestyle. So share with us where they can learn more about you, what you do, find your book, all those things.
Amazing, you guys. Thank you. So you can follow me on Instagram, which is just Lauren Roxburgh, LOROXBURGH. And then you can go to my website, which is laurenroxburgh.com, or you can also go to laurenroxburgh.com/studio. To access the studio. And then also one thing we want to share with your listeners is if you guys want to purchase my new book, The Power Source, which is the hidden keys to ignite your core, empower your body, release stress, and realign your life. If you purchase the book, we will give you 1 month free for my Align Life Studio. So you can do it anywhere in the world. And like I said, you'll learn all about body rolling and rebounding and tons of amazing mat work and breath work and all of the stuff with fascia and connective tissue. So those are the best places to find me and connect with me and join our Align Tribe Facebook community, private Facebook group. And I go in there to do lives and stuff. So yeah, it's been really fun just like helping people globally and being of service like for the world to shift the consciousness. So
yeah. And I'll make sure and link all of that up in the show notes so they can get your book and check out that free month, because it is really powerful inside. So thank you again so much for being here. It has been a pleasure and an honor to have you on.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm glad it worked out and I'm excited to share.
Wasn't Lauren great? I mean, I love the idea of what science is learning about fascia and what it can do for our body. It is the interconnecting source of everything inside of us, and it really does pull everything together. So I hope that you learned the importance about it, and I thought she gave a ton of practical steps that we aren't just dehydrated people, but our fascia is dehydrated. And outside of just drinking tons of water, there are so many better ways to hydrate our tissues, and that is so important. So take these tips, start to implement that, grab a foam roller or a fascia sphere where you can do some more of the organ rolling. Like I said in there, you'll be surprised at how amazing you feel, how unbound. Like that's such a great word because I can't quite describe it other than that. Like you can breathe deeper, you can move better, you're a little bit more flexible, you don't have the joint pains, and overall, you just function better. So whether hormonally, whether mentally, whatever is off in your life, this literally can help. I know it sounds crazy, but it helps to unbind you. It helps to open you up and remove the blockages. This has been critical in my own journey with lymphatic flow and being a poor detoxifier myself. I really do love this, and it's so simplistic and it really takes no time. Plus, it's like an at-home massage. Why wouldn't you want to do it, right? So if you want to know more about today's episode, make sure you head to the show notes where you can get more information on Lauren, who she is, what she does, and where you can find some of my favorite fascia release techniques and tools that you need. And I'll tell you, I think they're all under $25. So head on over there. That can be found at simperitzwellness.com. Also, don't forget to check out Lauren at laurenroxburgh.com. That's Lauren, and her last name is spelled Roxburgh. She also wrote a book called The Power Source. And as she mentioned, if you buy the book, you can get a free month of her Align Life Studio for free. And inside that, I promise you, you are going to learn so many great techniques that you can use forever. So check that out. Read her book. It's fantastic. And learn more about her again at laurenroxburgh.com. Okay, that's it for today's podcast. Don't forget to come back next week where we have another amazing show just lined up for you. So stay tuned for that, and I will see you back here then.